this is Caitlin from Caitlin Annalie Cards, and today I'm joining you with another video in the Pawsome Stamps Christmas card making series. Today we'll be making this mini slimline reindeer cheer card. For my card project today, we're going to be pairing up the Beary Christmas stamp set, which is this one here, and the bear has his sweet little reindeer antlers, along with the Just Sentiments Christmas set. And then these sequins are gorgeous. This is the Peppermint Sequin mix, and we're going to be adding those in as our embellishments today. I pre-cut all of my cardstock for today's project, and that big piece of craft is going to be folded in half for our card base. And I'll be leaving all of the dimensions that I used, as well as all of the supplies from Pawsome Stamps, in the description below with links for you, so it makes it super easy in case this is something you want to try to recreate. I've been trying really hard lately to add sentiments and decorations to the inside of my card base in the hopes that it helps me to actually send them out. So I grabbed the two little presents from the Beary Christmas stamp set, and I'm going to be inking them up in just a light brown ink to the inside of the card, just as a subtle accent that can be written over if it needs to be. And then I took the Merry Christmas stamp from the Just Sentiments Christmas set, and I stamped that on the inside of the card in a regular black ink so that it would be nice and bold and crisp, and I just love the font of these stamps. They are so beautiful. I went ahead and added my red cardstock panel to my card base just so that everything up to this point was completely done, and all we'll have to do at the end is add our final layer on top and it'll be ready to go. I'm using my favorite alcohol marker paper to work on to create this scene, and I knew that I wanted to create a single layer scene. So I'm laying out my bear where I'm going to want him to go, and then placing the little ornaments on top of that stamp, because I'm going to be doing some masking and layering my stamps up so that we can have one cute little scene all nice and flat for easy shipping. So I put down my Misty Door to grab those top stamps and then stamped them into place first. Then I put down a full stick post-it note to create my little masks, and I'm just making sure I have masks for each ornament. And I cut those out, just fussy cut right up against the black line, and then lined them up on their respective ornaments. So that way we can go in and stamp the bear next. And I wanted to create this look as if the ornaments were hanging down from his antlers. So I'll be drawing in the lines by hand later. But this is just a really cute little way to add in those ornaments, and you can really customize it to be whatever kind of look or design that you want, which is super fun. I added in a fourth ornament over on that right hand side, and this one doesn't need to be masked because it doesn't actually overlap with any of the antlers or anything like that. And then I'll be rotating my paper around because I really want to create this little pile of presents on the bottom for our little bear to be popping up out of. So I added in the smaller polka dot present over on that right bottom corner, and I also held my sentiment in place for a minute just to make sure that I would have plenty of room to stamp that afterwards. I lined up this sweet little bear back in line with so that the ornaments were hanging where I wanted them from the antlers. And as much as I love how this turned out in the brown tones that I color him in today, I think that this would be so adorable as a polar bear. So if that's something that you try out, make sure to tag Pawsome Stamps in your posts on Instagram, because they do a really fun thing called Feature Fridays where they feature other people's projects that are using their stamps. And I absolutely love seeing everyone else's projects. It's so inspiring, and I think it's a great way to kind of get new ideas on how we can use some of our favorite stamps. I took my masks off of my ornaments, and then I went in with a ruler and a Copic pen so that I could create some additional rectangles to make extra presents around my bear. And you can see here I made a little there was a little bit of an extra line. I didn't put my line low enough, so I decided to just disguise that by adding in a little ribbon to each of the corners of my larger present here where my sentiment's gonna be, and I think that it covers it up perfectly, so that was super fun. And then I just added in a couple more lines to the background just so there'll be extra presents back there behind those beautiful stamped ones. I thought that was fun. And then I went in again with the ruler and just added little lines down from the antlers to my ornaments, and then just added little loops at the top as if they were tied on in bows. I thought that was really sweet too, and very simple and easy. Anyone can do that. And then it was time to start our coloring. For the antlers, I decided to go with something a little bit warmer, and so I pulled out my E30 markers, going in with that darker shade on the outer and lower parts of each antler, and then going in with one shade lighter, trying really hard to leave at least a little bit of white space so that we could go in with this last lightest marker to create some nice contrast and a really pretty highlight. For my bear himself, I decided to go with something a little bit more of a true neutral. So I pulled out my E40s, and normally I am a fan of a 3-color Copic blend, but today I decided, because there is so much open space with this bear, that I was going to use 4 markers, and I really think that it helps to fill in the area nicely, and you still get that little bit of extra contrast going on without it being super overpowering. And it doesn't really take any extra skill. It's just in leaving a little bit of extra open space there so that you just really get that highlight versus the darker on the edges. Right now you can see that there's still a little bit of banding. At the end, I will go back in with some of my medium shades and just go over everything again to help blend that out. Sometimes I like to wait a little bit to see how the markers will dry back before I go in to do a second layer, because sometimes it's not needed and sometimes it actually makes a huge difference. I'm going in with my neutral grays on the scarf and the ornaments to create all of my white areas first. The trick with this is to try to make sure that you leave some kind of actual white space in each of those areas so that it reads as white instead of a true gray. But I like to do all of my lighter white and gray markers first before the red, because if you accidentally touch the tip of like your N0 marker into a place where there's already red colored, it'll drag and you'll end up with red everywhere. So I always do my white areas first and then go back in to add in my red shading afterwards. And I use the same blends for all of the red and all of the gray/white. So that way it really looked cohesive and everything kind of went really well together. I thought this would play off really well too, because I knew that I really wanted to use those peppermint sequins. And so everything was kind of based around that sequin mix and those beautiful colors that come in that. I decided to make my back 2 presents red and make the accents on the front stamped presents red as well with white paper, and that way there would be kind of a good balance back and forth between the colors. Not everything would be red altogether or white altogether. And then the little ribbons on the sentiment present will also be white, and then the main present wrapping on that one will be red. And I was a little bit nervous about making that sentiment present red because I wanted to make sure that the sentiment was still legible. So when everything was done and colored, I actually went back in with a way lighter marker. I grabbed my R20 and just ran over the sentiment words themselves and that little bit of lighter marker, because it has that extra colorless blender and alcohol added into it. It does help to kind of disperse the color that's around those words and makes it just a little bit easier to read. So if you're ever worried about that while you're coloring, keep that in mind, that you can grab a lighter marker in that same family and just run it right over the words, and you won't really see the color itself, but it'll help to kind of dilute that color that's around your font, and it'll be even easier to read than before. I also made a little boo-boo when I was coloring with the red marker, and so anywhere that happens, I just turned my ribbon into striped ribbon, and it's fine. And again, you would never know. So that's what's fun about when you're adding in and creating your own little scenes. You can change it up and add in extra details to cover or hide anything that you might need to, and no one would ever know the difference unless you're talking about it on YouTube. Now, I may or may not have a slight obsession with Pawsome stamp sequin mixes. They are my absolute favorite. I love them so much. As you can see, I am growing my collection regularly. And if you have not tried the sequin mixes, I'm telling you right now, they're 100% worth it. Get yourself a couple. You will have no regrets. So I adhered my panel onto the front of our card so he has a nice little red frame, and then it was time to add on these peppermint sequins. So I poured some out and started playing with placement, and I decided that I wanted them scattered up at the top with the other ornaments. I think they kind of just look like nice little lights or extra ornaments, and the sparkle up there is so beautiful. So I ended up with 2 on one side and 3 on the other. I am a fan of an odd number of sequins, so 5 was the perfect amount for for this card. And then I'm using a stylus to dot on a little dot of glue where I want them to go, because my glue tip was just dripping so much that this is a really great tip if you need to kind of control the flow of your glue a little bit better. It's a nice way to just dot on what you need, and then you don't have to worry about glue seeping out from under your sequins. And then this is when I went back in with those Copics just to smooth out my coloring a little bit extra. And everything came together so perfectly for this card. I am absolutely in love with how it turned out, and I love this stamp set so much. He's so cute and perfect for Christmas and the winter season in general. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me today. If you're not already, please subscribe to the Pawsome Stamps channel. They have amazing inspiration coming out every single week. I hope that you have an amazing week and holiday season, and as always, happy crafting.